Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. Or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting. Your video or audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM, Andriy.
You are muted, Andy.
Thank you very much, Carolina. We are very excited to be here at Online Presenters. We're excited that you're here as well. And we want to present a number of things to call your attention to. The first thing is that our club is very unique. We are a diverse club with members from over 25 countries. And because of that, we have people of varying skill levels and experience that they can share with you. And that's very important. We've already gone past the area of training for the club officers. I trust that all of them have been trained. We're working right now on making sure that everybody has signed up for next year. Hopefully that takes place in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And thirdly, we want you all to be focusing in with the last 118 days or so left this year on completing what you have in mind for yourself. Are you going to finish a path? Are you going to get your DTM? What are you going to do? Speak to the Vice President of Education, which is David Carr, and he can help you set up for those presentations. At this point, I want to go back to our Toastmaster of the day, who today is Evie, doing it for her first time, and we'll help her out that she feels comfortable in taking on a new role. It's up to you, Evie. You're the stage.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I would like to extend a warm welcome, especially to our guests who are here today. We hope you'll enjoy our meeting and that you'll have an opportunity to participate maybe during our table topics portion if you wish. Our theme tonight is the March of Progress. I can't think of a more fitting topic for a group of speakers like ourselves, but first, a little bit of setting. As Toastmaster of the Day, it is my role to facilitate this meeting. There are 3 parts of our Toastmasters Club meeting. Number 1, our prepared speech session is where we have our members delivering speeches based on projects out of one of the Pathways manuals or one of the advanced manuals. In part 2 of our meeting, we will have members and guests practice their thinking and speaking on their feet skills in my personal favorite part of the meeting, table topics. Part 3 is the most important part of the meeting, the evaluation portions, where we give constructive criticism and feedback to the people who have worked so hard to put on 3 amazing speeches for us today. And I can't do this alone. I have a team who will be assisting me in these duties. I would like to introduce them now and ask each of them to briefly describe the role they'll be performing today, starting with our awe counter, our double duty awe counter. Carolina.
Thank you, Evie. My role as an accounter is to count your grunts, awkward sounds, awkward pauses, and I'll be counting and I will give you my report at the end of the meeting. But I have a double role today. I will also be vote counter. I will put a link on the chat and you could vote for your favorite. Evie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Carolina. All right, now for our grammarian. Let me see, I forgot to write down who that was. I'm so sorry. Andrew.
Thank you very much. The role of the grammarian is to actively listen to everybody in their speech, make sure that you're using proper grammar while using that, as well as using the word of the day. The word of the day today is betterment, the act of progress of improving, an improvement that goes beyond mere repair. So if you incorporate the word betterment into your speech, I will mark that down. At the end of the meeting, I'll be called upon to identify great uses of grammar, sentence structure, and who used the word betterment. Back to you, Evie.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And now for our watcher. That was, let me see, that was Magger, right?
Yes, Evie, this is Maggie. This is first time to do the watcher in this club. I will watch your visualization, especially we are online Toastmaster club. So that means everything is unfortunately to be a 2D vision, and then that's why we can present our best. So you can change your background, make sure your slides presentable and attractive. And at the end of the meeting, I'll give a 1-minute report. Thank you. Back to you, Evie.
Thank you so much, Maggie. All right, and for our chat monitor, Mr. David Carr.
So I will be watching the chat for anything interesting that goes on in there. If anybody chats that something is going horribly wrong, I will bring it to the attention of the Toastmaster of the day. Otherwise, I will look for anything amusing or interesting and share it in a report at the end of the meeting. I will also be your timer for this evening. So watch my background for timing lights that will change at the minimum midway point. So I'm using the carousel of progress from Disney World. We have a yellow image of progress and a reddish image of onward and upward progress that you will see come up on the screen behind me. That would be at minimum 1 minute for table topics, yellow 1.5, red at 2 minutes with a 30-minute buffer where you can run the red light just a little bit. And I believe our speeches tonight are 5 to 7 minutes. Please tell me if that's not correct. But so 5, 6, and 7 will be the signals.
Let me check real quick. I think Petra had some special notes about her speech, and I am going into there and just making sure I've got everything. Okay, yes, it is 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, fantastic. I believe that is all the functionary roles. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves and explaining the very important roles that help us practice to become better speakers. Each of those roles plays a part in refining our speaking, bringing to our attention things that we don't notice for the betterment of all of our speeches. A little bit about the theme tonight. I mean, the March of Progress is kind of the ultimate Toastmasters theme in a way. The journey of becoming a great speaker is one of continual growth and improvement. Each time we step up to the podium, either in real life or virtually, we're marching forward on our path to becoming more confident, engaging, and impactful communicators. And as we progress, we not only become better speakers, but just more confident human beings with that soft skill that we're building. And just as society has made tremendous progress over the years, we too have the ability to progress in our personal lives and our professional lives every day if we try. The skills we learn and hone here at Toastmasters are ones that just plain serve us well in all areas of our lives. I can kind of feel when I'm getting rusty. I can feel it in my interactions, even casually with people. And just that continuous progress just really serves me well. And I know you feel the same. So let's just take a moment to be proud of the progress that we've made so far. We're in an advanced club. All of us here have worked very hard, and both the speakers and individuals, we support one another as we continue on this journey. So let's get started with this meeting. I cannot wait to see what the very thematically appropriate speeches are going to be all about. All right, so our very first speaker of the evening is, hold on, let me shuffle through all of my open tabs. I always have too many. Let me see. All right. So our first speaker She says, it's not how many years you're a Toastmaster, but rather making the years work for you. She says over the past few years, she hasn't felt like she's been as consistent as she wanted to be in her various roles and speeches and Toastmasters, and knows that she needs to get out from her comfort zone and hit the road running. In a speech headline, mentors are a part of life she will seek to address that there are various types of mentors and the impact they create from time to time. Speaking from the Visionary Communication Level 2, Learning Your Style, is Antoinette Trim.
I have discovered that there are 3 types of mentors in our lives. By default, we have our parents. By force, we have our teachers, our lecturers, and by choice, our friends, our colleagues, and even our managers, because we choose places where we want to work. Similarly, I have been fortunate to have all 3 of these in my life. Good evening, Toastmaster of the Day and my fellow Toastmasters. Mentor by default. Let's talk a little bit about my parents. It is said that the older one gets, the smarter your parents become. I remembered as a little girl, I owned a little piggy bank, and that is where I will put my little monies that my family members would give me from time to time. It was only when I reached into my late teenage years, as well as into my early adulthood, then I understood the concept of saving. Thanks to my parents for teaching me this important life skill. Many of us will remember our school days. And in particular, many of us will, of course, also remember the various teachers we may have had who gave us positive or negative feedback, or who rather may have impacted upon us positively or negatively. In secondary school, I did many subjects, example, English, math, chemistry, history, biology, and so forth. But I remembered 2 of those subjects I did pretty well, which was chemistry and history. And on retrospect, both of those teachers always gave me some form of encouragement, stating, you can do it, it's not that difficult. And in so doing, I was able to build my self-confidence on those 2 subjects. And as I said before, I did pretty well in those. The scenario I just described was mentor by force. Now that I am an adult, and I have been working in a financial institution for about 28 years now. And of course, I had many managers. And I remembered one of my former managers. She came to me and said, Antoinette, I would like for you to become my secretary. I was scared and anxious at the same time. Because one, it was an upgrade, and of course, be given more responsibilities. And most of us were afraid of her. Actually, we used to nickname her the Iron Lady. Anyway, she took me under her wings and she trained me very well. So much so that my colleagues would nickname me as well, Little Y. Some years have passed and I have decided to join Toastmasters. And I would also like to say that no one bullied me to join Toastmasters. No one forced me, no one tricked me to do that. I genuinely wanted to improve on my presentation skills. And in joining Toastmasters, I was also able to improve on my leadership skills. I remembered my very first speech face-to-face, whereby only people in the first row heard what I said. And after the meeting, my assigned mentor came to me and said, "Girl, Antoinette, you must try to project your voice so that persons sitting in the last row must be able to hear and understand what you're saying." Anyway, we tried that after the meeting and it was successful. I was able to do so. And I must say that my mentor, we have a relationship. She's not only interested in my progress through pathways, but she was also interested in me as it relates to my social welfare. Now that we are all in this virtual space, I must say that Toastmaster Joni Laidlaw, many of you know her. I would consider her to be my virtual mentor. She would offer me tricks and tips about the virtual space, as well as she would encourage me, "Antoinette, you must do more speeches and get actively more involved in Toastmasters." And I'm proud to say that through her encouragement, I was a timer for 3 of the contests. I believe that if it was not for Toastmaster Jody, that would not have been happening. And as a matter of fact, sometimes I wondered, like, Jody wants me to eat, drink, and sleep in Toastmasters. Anyway, Toastmasters now is in my bone marrow. I didn't say blood, it is in my bone marrow. Therefore, mentoring plays a vital role in everyone. And as a result, we should never overlook our varying abilities of being mentored or to become a mentor. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Year.
Thank you so much, Antoinette, for that lovely and uplifting speech. Our next speaker is going to tell you a story about 3 brave Toastmasters clubs, separated by 1,000 miles and yet united in their bravery of overcoming life's challenges. Speaking from Engaging Humor Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, Evaluation and Feedback for Speech, Andriy Smolenko.
Brave, meaning showing no fear of dangerous or difficult things. My fellow online presenters, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a story about 3 brave Toastmaster clubs, separated by 1,000 miles, and yet united by their bravery, united by showing no fear of dangerous or difficult things. The first club I'm going to tell you about is my local club. It's called Manchester Communicators, based in Manchester, UK, just around the corner from me. Very convenient location, right in the center of Manchester. We meet up just twice a month, every Monday, every other Monday of the month. We just get there, have a good laugh, have a good chat, improve our public speaking skills, and so on. And I would say it looks like an absolutely ordinary club. It's just 5 years old, attract many students, and so on. Probably as ordinary as about 15,000 clubs belonging to Toastmasters International around the world. However, there is one feature makes that club very brave. and that's Irish dance. You're probably asking yourself that question, what Irish dance has got to do with online Toastmasters Club? And I tell you, this brave club for the last 2 months has to share almost the same premises with 30 young ladies like that practicing the Irish dance, literally right next door. Yes, and imagine that some newcomer delivering their speech and then hoops, 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 and then evaluator and the presenters, hoops, hoops, hoops. Brave club, really brave. Well, it's cheap rent, central Manchester, and apparently this stuff not going to last forever. Well, the fortune favors the brave, I would say. They're still up and running. The second club I'm going to tell you about is Online Presenters. This is our club. And the reason is, this club was chartered 6 years ago on March 2017 by a brave bunch of people led by established presidents David Carr. Well, the thing is, at that time, online presentation in Toastmasters was something unheard of, almost blasphemy. How could respectful Toastmaster Club to do only online meetings? I believe there are a number of challenges that the team faced at that time. That, from what I've heard, they were even laughed at Toastmasters International headquarters. People didn't believe that could happen. And yet, 6 years, we're still going and going with the high chin. Fortune favors the brave. The third club I'm going to tell you about is slightly different from the other two, and it's quite close to me as well. The club is called Dnipro Hills and is based in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Despite the war that has been going on for a year, despite the Russian rockets, the Russian soldiers, tanks, constantly fighting Ukraine, the brave people in this club meet up on a regular basis. They meet up in person, and this is one of their latest photos. They meet up every Sunday when, of course, the sirens are not on, or the bomb shelling is not on, or power cut is not on, and they just experience each other company. They practice their communication skills. They are brave. Just a few numbers about the club. For example, during the year of war, they conducted 42 meetings, 98 prepared speeches, 8 workshops, and so on. The numbers, in my view, are quite staggering, showing the bravery those people, brave Ukrainian men and women. What's interesting to note that overall there are 9 chartered Toastmasters clubs in Ukraine. They're all under the same umbrella, District 110. 7 of those clubs are based in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Brave men and women on a regular basis, despite what's going on, the horror their family going through, they get together. And what I'm thinking, the message, the main message that I'm going to deliver during this speech is that all those 3 clubs, one being brave because they have Irish dancing just next door. The other club who was up front of all new movements in Toastmasters International, being brave and making that step. And the club in Ukraine, where people literally risking their lives because they want to get together. And despite all the odds, they do want to learn from each other. They want to improve their communication skills. They want to live a better life and show the rest of the world and send that quite clear message that fortune favors the brave. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you so much, Andriy, for that absolutely inspiring speech. That was amazing. Thank you so much. All right, our next speaker joined Toastmasters in Thailand in 2001 and became the first female DTM 2 years after joining. 4 years ago, at the age of 70, she went back to university and earned her master's degree in speech communication. Her life motto is never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Speaking for 5 to 7 minutes, the title of her speech is Mirror of Choice, Petra.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? And the mirror says, not you, it's your sister. Oh no! Toastmaster and friends, have you ever felt disappointed with your look like I did? Oh, you too? When I was 10, my sister was 17. She was tall, shapely, and a beauty contest winner. At 10, I was short, chubby, and I almost won an ugly contest. I tried so hard to look like my sister. I tried on her clothes, lipstick, high heel shoes, but I was looking worse. And all the bullies topped it off by saying, hey, Petra, how come your sister is so beautiful? Is she your real sister? Can you relate? My dear father saw the agony in me, and he thought if he didn't help me, I would remain jealous, bitter, loser all my life. My father chose to tell me a little folk tale that helped me change the way I look in the mirror of choice. Like all stories, he began with once upon, help me, a time, thank you. There was a little mouse who always wanted to be someone else. Since her body was tiny and weak, she wanted to be someone strong. One day, she said to the sun, the sun, I really want to be you. You must be the strongest of them all. And the sun said, hey, little mouse, I'm not the strongest. Look, when the cloud rolls by, I cannot shine. Oh, gee, how come I never thought of that? Then the little mouse kept on comparing, wanting to be the strongest. But every time someone else was stronger. Until one day she met a strong wooden wall. She wanted to be the wall. And the wall said, hey, little mouse, you really want to know who the strongest of them all is? It's you. You can use your sharp, tiny teeth to gnaw through me so you can wander freely in and out. You are the strongest of them all, you silly mouse. Me? Am I the strongest of them all? Oh, actually, I am. I just forgot to see my own strength. Friends, have you forgotten to see your own strength sometimes? Sadly, many people forget, but some people remember their strength despite their overwhelming weaknesses. Do you know Helen Keller, famous writer and motivational speaker? She was deaf, mute, and blind, but not too blind to see her wisdom strength. And I can relate to some of her struggles. At the age of 53, I joined Toastmasters like you. 1 week after joining, I entered Table Topics Contest. And 2 months later, I became District 51 Table Topic Contest winner. Yeah. Thank you. Before the contest, I could have looked at the loser side of the mirror. And I could have told myself, Petra, how could you win? You're too old. Ugly. You had too little training. But instead, I turned the mirror around and I found a good storyteller, the winner in me. Friends, do you still remember the little folk tale that my father told me? I can still remember my daddy's warm hug and his whisper, Petra, your life is a mirror of choice. Choose to look at your strength. Oh, thank you, Daddy. From then on, and little by little, I started seeing my strength and I started changing from being jealous to being joyous, from being bitter to being better, from being a loser to being a leader. What about you? Have you been comparing your weaknesses to other people's strength for too long? Don't you want to be joyous, better, and a leader? The secret is mirror, mirror is not on the wall. It's in the power of your hand. It's called the mirror of choice. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Petra. That was absolutely wonderful. I genuinely love all of your speeches. I am going to go ahead and take this time to call for a timers report. Please let us know if all of our speakers qualified.
All speakers are qualified, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David. Let's see, I would also like to encourage everyone to go ahead and send out those votes to our vote counter for the best speaker for this evening. I would also like to encourage you all to please write a little love note to our speakers. If you haven't already, just encouraging them and letting them know what you thought of their speech. And while you do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about researching for this theme. Before this meeting, I was thinking to myself, what different individual topics can I talk about without, like I asked my husband, there's so much about the modern day that can apply to the March of Progress. And I asked my husband, and immediately he said ChatGPT. And I was like, I don't know if there's a single, not only Toastmasters meeting, but social interaction that I've had in the past 2 months where ChatGPT hasn't been brought up at least twice. But then I realized I would be remiss if I didn't. I don't know. That just makes sense to me. If I didn't, if the theme of the meeting was, you know, the March of Progress, and I didn't at least bring up ChatGPT one time, I would have failed the theme. So there you go. I have mentioned ChatGPT. I consider myself a thematic success now. Anyway, our table topics time. It's now time for the impromptu portion of our meeting. This is my favorite part. The table topics should challenge us and help us think on our feet. Without preparation, it's a very, very important skill to keep ourselves spontaneous and flexible and keep our brains ready to talk about anything at a moment's notice. All right. And our table topics master of the evening is, where is my tab? It is, oh my goodness. Okay, yes, I'm going to have to get used to this. I'm used to having all the papers right in front of me. Let's see.
He's waving to you. It's Calvin.
Calvin, I'm so sorry. Calvin Dorsey, thank you so much for being our table topics master for the evening.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask one question to all of the respondents. You'll need a pencil because there will be some items at the end of the question that you'll need to jot down. Here's the question. If you were adrift on a yacht in the South Pacific that was slowly sinking, and all you had was a rubber raft with oars, your estimate is that you are more than 1,000 miles from land. To survive, you can choose only one of the following items. Here they are. 1 quart of 160 proof Puerto Rican rum, a small transistor radio, a 20 square foot line of opaque plastic, 5 gallons of water, maps of the Pacific Ocean, a shaving mirror, and shark repellent. When you respond, tell us which item you would choose to survive and why. There's no right or wrong answer. Is everybody clear on what we're doing? Is everybody participating? Graham, what is your response?
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I am on a raft. It is sinking. I am 1,000 miles from land. I have no oars. I have no way to survive. Suicide is a sin. We're told that from when we first go to whatever form of church or whatever form of religion that we have. But quite frankly, under those circumstances, there is only one choice for me, and that's the rum. I'm going to take that rum and I'm going to drink that rum, and I'm going to drink that rum until I reach oblivion, because there is no way that I can survive. I mean, I recognize that I can't swim 1,000 miles. Even if I had the shark repellent, I couldn't beat the sharks off because they'd come back. If I had the mirror, I could probably signal a plane, except that if I'm in the middle of the Pacific and 1,000 miles from land, I happen to know that there is nowhere in the Pacific where you're 1,000 miles from land that you are also in a flight path. It simply doesn't happen. So there's not going to be a plane to see me. So water's not going to help. The rum, though, the rum, that means that I can get absolutely off my face, and then I won't care if my raft sinks and the sharks get me and I get wrapped up in plastic and I'm dead wrapped in plastic because I'm dead and I don't care. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Graham. Maggie, would you like to participate?
Yes.
All right.
I kind of changed my mind after Graham shared his story, his choice. Because when you give us the options, I was like, there's no way we can survive with only 1, 2. If you really want me to choose one, maybe I'll choose radio. I'll just keep talking, because I was thinking, consider how many populations currently doing nothing, just, roaming in the internet or roaming in the somewhere in the channel communication. Maybe someone can hear me, but I know is not going to happen. Or maybe I can choose a very large piece of plastic. But to be honest, I feel like I couldn't swim in the ocean. It's going to be very, very zero chance for me to survive. The most dangerous part is the depression. I don't want to sit there waiting for someone to help me without contributing anything from myself. I think that's the biggest part, which scares me the most. So, okay, I think rum is better. Or do you have a knife? Sorry not to be so positive. It's just, maybe I shouldn't go to the ocean. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have time for a couple more, or at least one more, Evie? Madam Toastmaster?
Let me go ahead and look at this handy dandy schedule with all the times on it. I think that, no, we have time. We have time for, I would say, maybe like 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
We're doing pretty good.
Sunny, what's your response?
Mr. Table Topics Master, I got sick that day and I missed the boat. Oh my God. They always say, why are you so late? Well, this is one time it paid off. So I did not have to deal with deciding I don't really drink, although I did just come back from a trip and I enjoyed pina colada with some rum. And I do like the radio, but if I had to have been on this ship that got shipwrecked, I would just take 5 gallons of water and hope that I also had some type of mix to put in it to occupy some of the time that I'm out there in the sea. But I should have stuck with my first answer. So I will. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I missed
Thank you.
And this
Thank you very much.
that I did. Back to you.
Thank you. And finally, Carolina, what's your response?
This is a very difficult question because I would like to survive, but I have so little hope about it, but I will try anyway. I feel sick on boats, so no way I could choose rum. And plastic, I don't know how to do with plastic in the middle of the ocean. And then you said a mirror. I couldn't imagine what could do with a mirror until I heard Graham telling about sending signals. That is a very good idea, but I'm not sure how long a signal with a mirror could travel. And water, oh, it would be delicious in the middle of the ocean with the salt, but water is not going to help me to survive. So my decision is a radio, and I would be the whole day trying to talk with the hope of surviving, but I'm not sure if someone could help me. But the situation is very sad. But I think that at least if I die with a radio trying to survive, it would be the best way of dying. Or maybe someone can hear me and I could say, try to give some directions about where I am. I'm not sure. I think that a radio would be a better choice to me because at least I would die fighting to survive. Back to you, Calvin.
Thank you very much. And Madam Toastmaster, if I can have 30 seconds, I would just like to give some context. This question is a part of a team building exercise, okay, that I use. In fact, when I do it, there are 15 items. These items were ranked by the United States Merchant Marines. And here's what they said. The transistor radio of the 15 items is ranked 12. It says because unfortunately you're out of range of your favorite AM radio stations. In other words, there's no transmitter. So that won't help you. And to Mr. Graham here, the 1 quart of 160 proof Puerto Rican rum, well, that would dehydrate him. He'd die. He'd be drunk and dead, both. The number one answer, let's see here. The number one answer, according to the United States Merchant Marines, is the shaving mirror. And regardless of the logistics, they feel that in terms of surviving, that mirror is going to be your best option. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Calvin. That was a truly entertaining table topics to listen to, and I think it displays that for all of our members, at least we know that we need to have a goal going in, whatever that goal may be. You got it. Me, I would probably just make a similar choice and wake up again with a hangover. I don't want to think about it. It's time for evaluations. Okay. All right, these speeches have been really amazing, and to give you a little bit of a chance to catch up on writing love notes to folks and sending your votes in for table topics, I will talk again at a little length. But first, can we please have an out loud timer support? Oh, I see in the chat that all table talk speakers qualify. So great. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being on top of that. All right, so when I was talking to my husband today about what to talk about as a Toastmaster during a speech with a theme of the March of Progress, I was thinking to myself, I was talking to him about the fact that there were a couple speeches that really featured the concept of mentorship. And I said to the sentence, I was like, but we're an advanced club. I don't know if we even have mentors. And my husband was like, oh, that's a mistake. And that kind of made my ears perk up a little bit, because I mean, he has a really big point. Are you familiar with Six Sigma? Is anybody in here familiar with it? I'm really kind of not. I'm not even going to raise my hand. I hear him talk about it all the time, and I have barely even Googled it, but it's, I'm sure you know, if you know anything about it, that it's very important for your career development. And he mentioned that for green belts and black belts especially, the concept of mentorship is not something that you put down when you're no longer new or no longer young. You always need that voice to continue you on that march of progress. So with that, let's go to our evaluation section, led by the illustrious Sarah Idhen.
Thank you, Toastmaster Evie. We're at this part of our session tonight where we're going to be reviewing and assessing how well we did, whether in our speeches or our evaluations and so forth. There's a quote from Simon Sinek, and he says that the goal is not to be perfect by the end. The goal is to be better tomorrow. And everything we do from the beginning to the end of our meetings each Monday is for the betterment of the members, each and every one, and for the betterment of the club. And we get that betterment through the evaluations and the feedback. Beginning with evaluations, we had 3 great speakers tonight. And our first speaker was Antoinette Trim, and her evaluator is Graham Carnes. Please welcome Graham as he gives evaluation for Antoinette.
Madam General Evaluator, Toastmasters. The purpose of this project, that is the speech where we talk about introduction to mentoring, is to talk about when we have had a mentor and what we have learned from them. But by extrapolation, the purpose of this speech is also to talk about the process of mentoring. And that's why I was so pleased to see Evie talking about the fact that mentors aren't something that you just have when you are young. They are something that you should seek out all through your life, and that you should seek to be all through your life. So this is, I believe, the 4th time that Antoinette has had to give the introduction to mentoring speech. And it is really hard to keep it fresh and to keep it interesting and to keep exciting when you've done this speech a number of times. And I want to commend Antoinette first up on doing that really well. She made this fresh. She made it interesting. From a presentation point of view, I want to commend Antoinette on the improvements that she has had to her gestures and to her body language. She has improved so much over the years that I've been watching her as a member of this club. There was at one stage, there was a gesture where she was using her hands and it worked perfectly. She leaned into the camera to make a point, and she used this environment well. So congratulations on doing that. I would also commend Antoinette on her use of notes, although I will note that there were a few times that I noticed her glancing down to the bottom right. She was back from her camera, which is great. Her notes were on a desk, I would suspect, and she was just glancing down, and that's fine. Something else you might do if you're going to be presenting online. My notes for this evaluation are written on, in fact, it's the back of a calendar, which is a dad joke calendar. I actually have that stuck up next to my camera so I can see those but keep eye contact. So you might like to try that. One of the things I would suggest, not just for Antoinette, but for everybody who's doing this project, which, as I say, is something that we all have to do with every path we do, is don't just discuss the mentors that you have had. But I did love her discussion of how much she had learned from her parents and from Joni. But what did I learn from that mentor, and what can I then carry forward as a mentor for other people? So use it as a learning, as a teaching tool. This is what I learned. This is how you could put this into practice. So if you do that with this speech, I believe it will actually not only allow you to talk about your mentors and what you have learned from them, but allow you to become a mentor for your listeners, for your audience, so that they can learn as well. And that kills 2 birds with 1 stone, or feeds 2 birds with 1 scone, is apparently the nice non-violent version of that. But congratulations on the improvements to your presentation, Antoinette. I really enjoyed this, and I commend you for being able to keep this fresh and exciting, even on your 4th time of doing this path. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Graham. Our next speaker was Andriy Smolenko, and his evaluator was Jim Barber. So please welcome Jim with Andriy's evaluation.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, and of course, especially Toastmaster Andriy Smolenko. I apologize for the delay in coming on. I had a nice picture of Andriy, but my technology is failing me, so I'm going to have to omit that. You've all seen him though, and his presence was absolutely magnificent. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Andriy, before you spoke, you asked me to focus on 2 things. Number 1, your transition between the different parts of your speech, and secondly, the strength of your message. Congratulations, you knocked it out of the park on both of those. I want to talk about those in a little bit more detail. You are an accomplished speaker, though. Let me stress that before I even go any further. Your vocals are top-notch, your visuals, you are a master of using visual aids. The topics that you were presenting up, the pictures that you put up, all worked well. You put them up only as long as they needed to be there, and then you took them away. At no time did we lose track of who was the star of the show, which is you. That was so nicely done. Your gestures are congruent with what you're saying. They're comfortable, they're natural. You are comfortable, you are confident in your presentation. Now, let's get to the transitions. You didn't have to worry about the transitions because you tied all the different parts together so well. The key word was brave, and you used brave repeatedly throughout there. Fortune favors the brave. Love the phrase. You repeated it a couple of times. And of course, that was the theme of your speech. You talked about 3 different Toastmaster clubs. You had the Toastmaster club that was dealing with the dancers. Well, you had the Toastmasters club, us, who was dealing with the challenges of being different online presenters. And of course, you had the Ukrainian Toastmasters club. And those were 3 wonderful examples of bravery. And again, you just carried the theme through so very nicely. You are so accomplished. I have one suggestion for you, and it's a tiny, tiny little suggestion, but it's the only thing that I have. When you were giving your presentations, your eye contact was good, but not perfect. You were quite frequently looking slightly to the left of your camera, or might have been to the right. You were probably working on your different transitions and things like that. And compare it when you get a chance to Petra, when you go back and do review the entire session. Petra had the camera nailed. She was constantly looking right at the camera. You were looking slightly off to the side. Without a producer, I'm not really sure that you can do anything about that, but that's the only suggestion that I've got. I've got one last thing to say. Between 2 ice creams, this is kind of like Calvin talked about, between 2 ice creams, chocolate mint and peppermint, which one is the better mint? Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. Our next speaker was Petra, and her evaluator is, oh, I write that down. Okay, Andy. Thank you. Her evaluator is Andy. Please welcome Andy.
Thank you very much, General Evaluator. Oops, how'd that get there? Let me just take that off my screen. Sorry about that. I was very pleased to be the evaluator for Petra. Petra gave a speech that incorporated a number of things. It incorporated the fact that there was a message. It incorporated inspiration through stories. It incorporated engagement by asking questions repeatedly. It was a speech where the title integrated with the stories and the rest of the speech. You made sense. You were able to tie that together. You brought in so many different concepts, but the most important one for me was, how did it make me feel? As Maya Angelou says, how did the speech make you feel? And when you walked away from the speech, is it a speech that you would remember? And my answer to both those questions is yes. It made me feel very warm. First off, you dealt with the concept of when you began. You began when you were at age 70, and you began their process. And within 2 years, you got a DTM. That's marvelous. Part of that, I imagine, was because you didn't have a bona fide district, so you didn't have to do district service on your way to your district, your Distinguished Toastmasters designation. But you told multiple stories. The story of the mouse and how the mouse saw itself, the dynamic between you and your older sister, and how you looked upon yourself in that process. Your vocal variety, we talk about speed, pausing, pitch, and range in your voice. You used your voice as an instrument. You were able to have moments where you were loud, moments when you were soft. It wasn't as many times we see someone shouting the entire time. You had modulation of your voice, and that was excellent. You talked about your journey and how you recognize your strength within from the story that you told us about your father. You had about 4 or 5 different stories incorporated within your speech, and that was wonderful. Can I make any recommendations? I think that you had multiple stories, as I said, almost 5 of them, and if you cut it down to fewer, it could be even stronger. You had a call to action, you had a message, you had emotional, you had engagement. Those were very important things. We can all learn a lot from your speech. It's a masterclass in what a speech should include. Thank you very much, Petra. You had a great summary as well.
Thank you, Andy. Mr. Timer, would you please give us the times for those evaluations?
Yes, all
Non-qualified.
evaluator speakers qualify. I will post the times in the chat.
Thank you. Please remember to vote for your favorite evaluator by private chat to Carolina. We had several helpers throughout the meeting tonight, and each one of them said in the beginning that they would be given a report when asked to do so. So at this time, we're going to call on our grammarian. Please give us your report. Andy. You're muted. Yes, we hear you now.
All right. The grammarian report, the word of the day was betterment, and it was used by Evie, David, Jim Barber, and myself. That's my report. There were a lot of great uses of speech. There was no, in quotes, terrible speech, terrible structure. Everyone did a pretty good job. We should be proud. Back to you.
Thank you, Andy. Carolina, as our R counter, would you give your report?
You did a very good job today for prepared speakers. I almost couldn't count any grant. I just noticed something from me and from Evie. When we are trying to connect ideas, we use a lot and we have to be careful with that. But the rest of you did a great job. And as I said, I couldn't count many grants. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Carolina. Our watcher is Maggie. Please give us your report, Maggie.
Yes, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity, because this is the first time I'm doing a watcher. And then this is the first time I'm really watching myself and every single speaker, every single person talking. I'm watching you very, very seriously. I'm taking 3 pages of notes. What I want to see tonight is first, the body language. I can see the power from our 3 speakers. I can see the body language, how to express ourselves from our evaluators. This is really powerful. Please continue use them, especially Petra. I really enjoy it. In the beginning, I thought it was a little bit dramatic, but I think I can recall your speech over and over again. I really enjoy it. And the second part I want to mention is actually preparation. So when you know that's a speech coming up or you doing a role tonight, everything, your clothes, your makeup, your hair, everything is kind of may count, because we are a recorded session online. So make sure you smile. I really like your hair, Evie, and all these details make a big difference. Please continue, do the best of yourself. Really enjoy tonight. And the last thing I want to mention is same to the topic, to the word of the day, how to do a better man, how to be a better man. You need to practice more. There's something I noticed because of the glasses, the reflection sometimes can be distracted. Before I kind of ignore as you know, I don't really care, but now I think that's the issue. So please, let's practice, do more speech, do more club meetings, and then you know how to do a better man, how to do a better yourself. Thank you very much for everyone giving me this opportunity tonight. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Maggie. And David is our chat monitor.
Well, let's see. I don't know that I had anything outstanding to report from the chat other than there's a note that Jim should be pun-ished for using the word of the day in a torturous way. Other than that, I don't see anything too extraordinary in here.
Okay. And our vote counter is Carolina. Do you have the tally of the votes, Carolina?
Yes, I have. For the best evaluator, we had a tie. Congratulations, Jim and Andy. For the best table topics speaker, the winner is Graham. Congrats, Graham. And the best speaker was or is Petra. Congratulations, Petra. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our helpers and our speakers, evaluators, and everyone. David, do you need to give a timing, or we already have it in the chat? So is that sufficient?
I think that's been done.
Okay, cool. All right. So here we are. We're at the end of our meeting. I have to say that we started on time. We were just 1 minute short of being on time, but that was pretty good. And throughout the meeting, I could see that we were interested in most of what was going on. Well, the highlight of the meeting that I saw was the interesting speakers, the interesting speeches, and how well they were organized. The highlight also was Evie, even though this was her first time being a Toastmaster, she had a joyous face and she lit up the whole room, so to speak. And I liked how she had the intermix throughout the meeting of her theme, which was very good, and it carried the theme throughout. Our outstanding table topics master gave us something to think about tonight, where we really had to really look at the situation and try to make some hard choices. So that was good. We had some very good quality evaluations, starting with Graham. He talked about improvement, how much improvement that the speaker had made. And he also gave her some suggestions. Next time, add what I learned, lesson learned. And Jim came in and he talked about, he let us know that there were previous interactions between he and the speaker, because he said what he was going to be working on according to what the speaker asked him to review and to evaluate. So that was good. And he gave a suggestion about better eye contact. Andy had a good evaluation of Petra, talking about her message, her stories. And then at the end, he gave her something to work on, cut down some of the stories. You had 5, maybe it would have been good for 2 or 3. Excellent, because we know that with evaluations, we get that feedback that helps us to do better the next time. There was good transition between each of the sections, from the Toastmaster to the Topics Master to the General Evaluator, and all the way back around. There was good transition through that, no wasted time, had a good handout. And the members, how well they fulfilled their roles, everybody, when they reported on their roles, it was good. We got some feedback from that, something that we can work on from that. The enthusiastic contributors of this meeting, I think, would be Evie and Maggie. They had the most smiles throughout the meeting. And I just wanted to also bring the attention to some things that I would suggest. As far as the meeting and when we have the speakers, we always tell the speakers to give eye contact to the audience. Well, I would suggest that the audience give more eye contact to the speakers. If you have your camera on, please make sure that you are engaged with the speaker. I know sometimes we have our head down. We're writing notes, especially if we're doing evaluations. We have our head down, we're writing notes, but let's try to give a better eye contact to the speakers so they can know that we're engaged and interested in them. Another couple of things for the evaluators, I noticed that Jim gave a contrast between one speaker's speech and the other, which I would suggest maybe we not do that. Do not call attention to another person's speech when you're evaluating this person, telling them to look more like, that's kind of like a parent saying, why aren't you more like your brother Jim? something like that. And another thing I would suggest is that when we evaluate, also, we never want to kind of discount the hard work or anything that the speakers have put forth. I think we do a great job. All in all, this is a professional group, and I've learned so much since I've been here. So back to you, Toastmaster Evie.
Thank you so much for that amazing evaluation. That really covered everything I was thinking too. And thank you so much for the kind words. They're very appreciated. This is actually, I think, my first time being a digital Toastmaster of the day. I've definitely done it in person before, but it's been a really long time. And this, I mean, I already love virtual Toastmasters so much, and this was just so much fun. I really enjoy the opportunity to continue my own personal betterment. I already know, I know I already used the word of the day, but I'm going to use it again. Not counting it anymore, whatever. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I will deliver it back over to our club president. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Evie. You did a wonderful job. First time, she did not let fear interfere with her ability to take on this role. I also wanted to do a call out to Andriy. Thank you so very much for talking in your story and mentioning the club in Kyiv. When I hear people saying, I couldn't make it, I had this problem or had that problem, I wasn't able to make the meeting. And then you have your club in Kyiv where they're making the meeting, and it looked like there are a lot of people there. I don't know how many were absent, but they're fighting and attending the meeting during a war where bombs are falling on them. That is talking about the bravery and the commitment in their club. I wish that I could say that in every single club I belong to, that people have demonstrated that kind of commitment. That hasn't been the case. But the fact that you pointed that out is an inspiration to me, and it's something to hold up to others, not to make them feel badly that they're not attending, but it points out the strength of their commitment. And we all know that when we signed up on the membership, there were 10 points on that Toastmasters promise. As Petra says, if you hold up the mirror and look at the Toastmasters promise, those 10 items, how many of those Toastmasters promises are you keeping? Which ones have you let slide? Think about that, because when you look at other clubs around the world, how there are plenty of clubs, as I've been in this Toastmasters for 10 years, I've seen districts form, almost like a sun being born for a new galaxy. When you see a new club being formed, a new district being formed, they're fighting every bit of the way to make those criteria and to join the Toastmasters organization globally. And how lucky we are that we have people in our club, i.e. David, that fought the way through the bureaucracy to make sure that an online club, our online club, was able to make it through, and how valuable that was, particularly during COVID, but also it trained leadership in all of us, because many people within this club went out throughout the globe and said, this is how an online meeting is held. It can be done. You can achieve it. I'm grateful for those opportunities and what we learn here every week. Recently was reading an article in Forbes and talked about soft skills, all of which that we're getting in online presenters, and they're all required now in the business world. This club, Online Presenters and Toastmasters, is helping provide the opportunity to learn all those soft skills. And, you know, as Petra says, she started at age 70. So she's shown the way that age is not a barrier. And I would say that there's so much to learn in Toastmasters along the way, that even if you're my age, and I'm probably a little bit younger than Jim, or maybe not, there's always something more to learn and get value from. We don't have any guests, I believe, so we do not have the opportunity to hear from our guests, but I would like to point out with a spotlight Calvin. I attended his D25 growth meeting where he had special speakers, and